In the very center of Europe lies a country that feels almost too perfect to be real. A place where medieval cobblestone streets meet ultramodern skylines. Where strangers greet you with calm smiles but carry stories that could fill entire novels. And where freedom, quiet, unspoken, deeply personal freedom, is treated not as a privilege but as a way of life. This is the Czech Republic, a land that seems frozen between centuries. A country where every corner feels like a film set, every face tells a story, and every beer seems to come with a lesson in philosophy. But behind the beauty, behind the charming smiles and the fairytale architecture, lies something more complex, a mix of elegance, rebellion, and survival, all wrapped in one nation's spirit. So today, we're stepping inside the Czech Republic to uncover what makes this small European nation so captivating, and why life here feels like walking through a living storybook, with just the right amount of mystery. At first glance, Prague, the capital, feels like a painting come to life. Golden spires, Gothic cathedrals, and bridges that seem to whisper old legends with every passing footstep. They call it the city of 100 spires, but if you ask locals, they'll tell you it's not the spires that matter, it's the stories that live beneath them. The Vltava River cuts through the heart of Prague like a silver ribbon, flowing from the south to the north, something few rivers in Europe do. On one side you have history, Old Town Square, the astronomical clock, and narrow alleys that seem to fold time itself. On the other, sleek glass offices, modern cafes, and vibrant apartment blocks that buzz with the energy of a new Europe. Everything here feels perfectly balanced, like the city itself is dancing between its past and its future. Maybe that's why one of Prague's most famous landmarks is literally called the Dancing House, a wavy, modern building that looks like it's swaying in motion, as if the architecture itself couldn't sit still. But beneath this beauty and balance lies a quiet tension, an invisible contrast between the calm order of daily life and the untamed freedom that defines the Czech soul. Because as charming as the Czech Republic looks on the outside, it's what happens beneath the surface that makes it unforgettable. The first thing you'll notice about Czech people is their calmness. They don't rush, they don't shout, they don't chase. They walk like they have all the time in the world, and maybe in a way they do. At cafes, conversations aren't loud or dramatic, they're quiet, measured, thoughtful. But behind those calm faces hides something more powerful, a sense of freedom that refuses to be tamed. Take a closer look and you'll notice something else: tattoos. Everywhere. On wrists, necks, even ankles, small symbols of rebellion inked onto pale, beautiful skin. For the Czech youth, tattoos aren't about fashion. They're about expression, proof that in a country once ruled by empires and ideologies, personal choice is now the ultimate form of freedom. The Czech people don't just look free. They live it quietly, elegantly, without needing to prove anything to anyone. And maybe that's what makes their beauty so captivating. It's not just physical, it's philosophical. They've mastered the art of being themselves, no matter who's watching. To understand the Czech Republic today, you have to understand its past. A story of kingdoms, occupations, and finally, quiet victory. Centuries ago, this land was part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, its culture shaped by monarchs and cathedrals. Then came Czechoslovakia, a hopeful union with their Slovak neighbors. And then decades of silence under Soviet influence, a period when faith, art, and individuality were all kept behind closed doors. But when the Iron Curtain fell, the Czechs didn't rise up with riots or war. They simply walked away peacefully, gracefully. The split from Slovakia in 1993 was called the Velvet Divorce, fitting, because everything about Czech rebellion is subtle. They don't shout, they just stop listening. And perhaps that's why the Czech Republic is now one of the most atheistic countries on earth. Not because they hate religion, but because they learned to trust their own minds more than any higher power. As one local once said, we don't need faith to be kind or fear to be honest. That's the Czech way. Quiet, rational, free. But that very same freedom has also given birth to one of the most surprising industries in Europe. Walk through the streets of Prague, and you might pass an artist, a student, or a tech engineer, or someone who happens to be one of Europe's biggest stars in the adult film industry. Few people outside the country realize this. The Czech Republic, with just 10 million people, produces over 10% of the world's adult films. It's not just about the money, it's about the mindset. Czechs view personal choice as sacred. If someone wants to live that life, it's their decision, no one else's business. There's no scandal, no moral panic, just quiet acceptance. In a world obsessed with judgment, the Czech Republic quietly leads in tolerance. To outsiders, it may look like controversy. But to locals, it's just another expression of what defines them most: freedom. And that word freedom touches every part of Czech life, from how they work, to how they love, to how they think about money. Let's be honest, the Czech Republic is not a rich country. The average monthly salary here sits around 40,000 Czech korunas, roughly €16 before taxes. And yet somehow people seem content. A one-bedroom apartment in Prague costs nearly half that salary. But the Czechs don't live to show off. They live to live. They spend evenings at cafes sipping cheap, world-famous Czech beer, which, by the way, often costs less than bottled water. They walk, talk, read, and think. Even the metro system reflects that balance: fast, clean, and simple with no turnstiles or barriers. It's as if the entire country runs on trust. And that trust extends beyond money. Czechs have learned that happiness doesn't come from luxury, it comes from stability. From feeling safe enough to express yourself, work honestly, and enjoy your weekends in peace. That's why, despite economic challenges, people here often describe life as simple but free. In many countries, freedom is a political slogan. In the Czech Republic, it's a quiet, everyday habit. You can drink beer in the park without a second look. You can smoke a little marijuana legally. You can wear whatever you want or almost nothing at all and no one will care. There's an unspoken rule here. Do what you want as long as it doesn't hurt anyone. That single sentence defines Czech culture better than any history book ever could. It's why you'll find artists, programmers, and philosophers all living side by side in perfect peace. It's why a tattooed girl can sit next to a priest on the tram and no one bats an eye. It's why people here laugh softly, love quietly, and live boldly without needing to announce it to the world. Maybe that's the real secret of the Czech Republic. Freedom here isn't loud, it's lived. Let's talk about what everyone notices but few understand: Czech beauty. It's true. Czech women are known worldwide for their elegance, light eyes, delicate features, and a certain effortless confidence. But beauty here isn't just skin deep. It's in how they carry themselves, how they speak, how they see the world. Women here value independence. They don't rely on charm to get ahead, they rely on education, intellect, and self-respect. And men, in turn, admire that. Relationships here are less about power and more about partnership. In cafes and parks, you'll often see couples simply sitting together in silence, not scrolling on phones, not posing for photos, just being. That quiet kind of love, unhurried and real, mirrors the nation itself, subtle, stable, and deeply human. Even attraction feels different here. There's no rush, no desperation, only curiosity. As one traveler once said, in Prague, people don't flirt. They simply exist beautifully, and that's enough. And maybe that's why so many foreigners fall in love not just with the people, but with the way life feels here. Czechs are deeply connected to nature. Every autumn, families head into the forest to forage for mushrooms, a national tradition older than their democracy. They call it the poor man's meat. It's not just food, it's meditation. A reminder that happiness doesn't come from abundance but connection. And their history reflects that same humility. It's the birthplace of Gregor Mendel, the father of genetics, of Franz Kafka, whose words redefined modern literature. And even the term robot, invented by a Czech writer, born from the idea of machines replacing human souls. The Czech Republic may be small, but its influence on science, art, and philosophy has been enormous. And yet the people remain grounded, humble, modest, quietly proud. You won't find over-the-top patriotism here. You'll find something better: contentment. Clean streets, safe nights, quiet parks, and people who take pride in living well. It's the kind of beauty that doesn't demand your attention, it earns it. So what is life really like in the Czech Republic? It's peaceful but not boring, free but not chaotic, modern yet ancient in spirit. It's a country where history whispers through every alley, where beauty walks casually down every street, and where freedom, real freedom, is as common as air. Maybe the Czech Republic doesn't need to shout to be noticed. Maybe that's the secret, the reason people come here and never want to leave. Because in a world obsessed with more money, more power, more noise, the Czechs remind us that happiness might just be about less drama, less control, less pretense. And perhaps that's the greatest beauty of all. The Czech Republic, a land where beauty meets freedom and time moves just slow enough for you to fall in love with life again.